Hello everyone, my name is Jackie and today I'm talking to you about my top 10 books of 2020. So I had a couple more 5-star reads than I'm talking about in this video, but I somehow managed to narrow it down to 10. The books are not in the order which I liked best, but just in the order in which I read them, because for me that made the most sense. So yeah, let's dive right into it. So the first book is Reverie by Ryan LaSala, which incidentally is also the first book I read in 2020. I think for the last couple of years the first book of the year was always one of my favorites, so that's amazing. So Reverie is very, very weird. Let's say it like that. So it's about Cain, who after an accident lost some of his memories, and it's very weird. Reality feels wrong to him. So when 3 of his classmates tell him they are his friends, he doesn't really know what to believe. And then he gets sucked into this world where there are different realities, where there are little bubbles kind of happening with different realities in them, and then they're gone again, and then there's this villain, and it's so hard to explain without spoiling, because it's weird and it's queer and it's fantastic and I absolutely adored it. So yeah, this was definitely one of my favorites. His new book, Bedazzled, I think it was just released, or it's released in the next couple of days, and I can't wait to pick it up. So my next favorite read was More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera, and this was the first Adam Silvera book I read, except for the one he wrote together with Becky Albertalli. It wasn't quite what I was expecting, because it's not fantasy or dystopia, but it's not quite contemporary either. It's somewhere in the middle, basically. And it's about Aaron, who's not really feeling happy, but his girlfriend tries to help him, and then he meets Thomas and everything changes. Because Thomas is smart and funny, and Aaron starts to spend more and more time with him. But the stronger his feelings for Thomas get, the stronger the tension between him and his other friends gets too. And then he's faced with a choice. Because there's this company that can operate your brain, and they could make him straight. And he has to decide if he wants to do that. And it's heartbreaking. It's so sad. Yeah, the ending was unexpected, but I really enjoyed the whole book. I really loved it. I definitely want to get my hands on I think it was the anniversary edition, because that has an additional ending or an alternate ending to the story in the back, and I'm really intrigued what this ending would be. So the next book had to be on this list. It's impossible that it isn't. The first 2 books were on the list the last 2 years, and I'm pretty sure the 2021 list will have the 4th installment, but that's Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. This is a comic series following Nick and Charlie throughout their relationship. In the beginning of the first book, Charlie is openly gay, but he was outed by someone else. And Nick, after befriending Charlie, starts to question his sexuality. And they're just adorable and cute, and it's a heartwarming story. I love Alice Oseman's writing style, and it's just, with this book there's not a lot happening, but with the next one we will get into some more serious topics, which I'm excited for too. But I absolutely adore the comics and the characters in here. So yeah, I can't wait for the next book. So the next book took me by surprise that it would be on this list, and it's Girl, Serpent, Thorn by Melissa Becherdost. And this is about a princess who in this story is also the beast. So it's really interesting. She is cursed, and everyone she touches dies. And she wants to try and find a way to break this curse. It's also a sapphic love story, and it's inspired by Persian mythology. And yeah, I really love this book. It's also a standalone, which is not that often in fantasy, but I figured out I actually really enjoy them and it's better than constantly starting new series. But yeah, I really love this book. Another book that of course had to be on this list is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. She is one of my favorite authors of all time, so her newest book had to be on this list. It couldn't be anything else. This book follows Bryce and Hunt, who have to work together to catch the demon that kills people in their city. And their fighting and bantering is really, really funny. I like the world because it's different than usual. Her other books give you the feeling of not really medieval, but set in the past, while this one is definitely in a fantasy universe, but it's also very much in the present, which is really interesting to read. And we have a lot of different creatures that normally don't go in the same books. We have Bryce, who is half fae. We have Hunt, who is an angel. We have a friend of Bryce's who is a fire demon, another friend who is a werewolf. We have vampires, we have witches, we have other shapeshifters, we have mer people, we have everything you can even think of is probably somewhere in this book. So yeah, and I absolutely adored it. It's definitely more adult than the other ones. It's definitely also slower than her other ones. It took some time to pick up pace at the beginning, and there's a lot of world building involved because it is set in a fantasy present world, which is not something we get often. So there's a lot of building in this book, but I'm really excited for the second one. So one author, of course, has to be mentioned twice on this list, and that's Alice Oseman with her newest book, Loveless, about Georgia, who goes to college and figures out that she is asexual and aromantic. There is some stuff happening. She makes a bit of chaos in her trying to figure this out, but it's just amazing. I adore Georgia and I adore her friends, and they're just such an amazing group, so this book had to be on this list. The next book on this list is another fantasy standalone, and that's The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I'm a bit late to the hype, I know, but I was a bit intimidated by this thing. So yeah, this is set in a fantasy world where we follow a lot of different characters in a lot of different places. We follow some people in the West who think that all dragons are evil and should be killed on sight. And people in the East who worship water dragons as gods. The only thing they have in common is that the dragons who breathe fire are the enemies. But they don't talk to each other because they're trying to protect their people from the others. But when the fire breathers start to stir again, they have to work together, or otherwise they could all be killed. And we follow a lot of different characters. One of my favorites is Ede, who's part of the so-called priory of the Orange Tree and was sent to protect Queen Sebran, because it is said that when her bloodline dies, the fire breathers will reawake. So in case that's true, she protects Queen Sebran. So that is one part of the story. Then we follow a friend of both of them, who's traveling around and trying to find help, and we follow someone who was exiled to the east, and it's a lot of different characters. There's also a sapphic love story in here, which is also great. And yeah, I really adored this book. There's a lot happening in here, and at the same time it's not really that much because it's not very fast paced. It's difficult to describe, but if you want something fast paced, this book is probably not for you. But if you love a lot of world building and character building, then I definitely would recommend reading this book. So the next book on the list is Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. And this follows Felix, who is a trans boy. One day some photos of him before his transition got leaked together with his dead name. and he starts getting transphobic messages, all from someone in his school. He tries to deal with this with the help of his best friend, while he also tries to navigate his feelings and maybe hopefully finally falling in love. Because that was something he thought he would never get, but a lot is happening here. I adore his best friend. He's the most amazing. He's so protective and so understanding and so accepting, and he's just adorable. I really love him. I love Felix. I have my problem with Felix's father a little bit and some other characters in the book, but our two main characters are just the best. So the second to last book on this list is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This follows Emilia after her twin sister gets murdered. And the two of them are witches, and after the twin sister gets murdered, she calls a demon to figure out who killed her sister. But she accidentally calls a prince of hell, and the most dangerous demons for her family are the princes of hell. So yeah. But the prince of hell she calls is Rev, and their relationship is really fascinating. I adore them. I'm just sad about the sister. I would have loved to see more of her. And yeah, I'm really excited for the sequel to this book. And the last book on the list I don't have currently on me because I lent it to a co-worker, but that is How to Be Ace, A Memoir of Growing Up Asexual by Rebecca Burgess. It's a graphic memoir, and it tells her story growing up from the moment everyone started thinking about sex all the time until adulthood, and figuring out that she doesn't have to push herself, that she doesn't have to want sex, and that it's okay, and that there will be someone who fits with her and who wants and needs the same things she does. And it was sometimes really heartbreaking and sad, but also just so amazing. It's about her finding people who are like her and seeing herself represented in the media, which is so rare. And it's just a really amazing book. It was the last book I read physically in 2020, and I'm really glad for that because it was really an amazing end to the year. So yeah, those are my top 10 of 2020. Let me know down below what your top 10 were, or if you've read any of the books and what you thought about them, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!